Hey, this is Thunder, the Desert Shaman. Geoengineering, what is it? Well, geoengineering is fucking up the planet, and it is a way to modify weather or control weather. Geoengineering. This started a long time ago. Oh, I don't know how long ago, years ago, when you first started seeing chemtrails. And you know what chemtrails are? Chemtrails are those things that you think are vapor trails behind jets crisscrossing the sky like a tic-tac-toe game. You've seen them. You look up and there's all kinds of contrails or vapor trails, or actually what they are chemical trails. And yes, they're being squirted out of nozzles on a jet aircraft, and they crisscross the skies with it, spray it all over the freaking place, all over the United States, actually all over the world. And these chemical trails are deadly. They have all kinds of chemicals in them, aluminum, barium oxide, and all kinds of other, I don't know if that's the exact chemical, but it's close. And other chemical ingredients that they spray, these little minute particles all over the sky. And then see what happens is you see the crisscross in the sky. You see these trails. And next thing you know, they're getting bigger and bigger. They're getting wider and wider. And pretty soon they're kind of turning into these misty, white, milky type clouds, okay? And these clouds descend upon the earth, and they have all these chemicals in them, and they kill people, they kill animals, they kill trees. Basically, what we're breathing is total poison, toxicity, when you have these things out there. This is a hush-hush thing. There is a gag order on certain people in the weather community not to talk about this or lose their jobs, or maybe even worse, okay? Now let me qualify something here so that you know I'm not talking with my head up my ass, okay? You have to go research this stuff, and I'm going to put a link below to the site, the main site of the main guy, Dane Whittington, who knows more about this than anybody on the planet Earth, and it's a wonder he's still alive. It's a wonder they haven't offed him, because he's suing the government. So I would recommend that you back him fully, maybe even donate to his site. But the deal is, these chemicals, and you're going to learn more about it if you go to his site, but this is just a kind of like a primer on it, just an off the top of my head primer. But this stuff's been going on and descending on the earth, and there's huge die-offs of like all kinds of animal species, and the die-offs are extravagant, mind-boggling. All kinds of species are washing up on shore from the ocean, because the ocean is turning into, I forget the terminology for it, but it's an ocean that's basically dead, okay? Now, if that wasn't bad enough, we also have Fukushima in Japan, which is still spewing radiation into the Pacific Ocean. Now, there's another component to geoengineering besides the chemicals coming out of the back of an airplane. And by the way, I am a pilot, and I also am a certified meteorologist. I had to get certified as a meteorologist at one time when I was managing a station for an airline in Bullhead, California. Bullhead, Arizona, Bullhead City. Right next to Laughlin, Nevada, right across the river. I helped them get certification on their airport. I had to put in a weather station, and I had to get certified as a meteorologist, long story short. And I am a pilot and flight instructor. When you see these contrails coming out from the back of what you think are airplanes, think again, because, and don't ever call them a contrail or a vapor trail from an airplane again. Yes, there are vapor trails. Now see, the way you notice the difference is when an airplane is flying and you see the contrail coming out of the tail or the engines or whatever. That contrail will disappear in like 15 to 20 seconds, okay? Maybe a little bit longer depending on atmospheric conditions. Now, a chemtrail hangs out in the sky all freaking day long or half the day. So you know the difference. Sometimes you can even see a jet flying at the same time that there's contrails, and you can notice that chemtrails, and you can notice that the contrail behind the jet is disappearing and the chemtrails are still there. That's an indication of what's happening, okay? Now, these particles they spray in the sky interact with, they have a way to make them interact with radio waves or microwave beams or just microwaves. Now, there's a huge antenna farm. Well, there's several actually, but the one that is most widely talked about is HAARP, H-A-A-R-P. It's acres and acres up in Alaska that have antennas on them, thousands of antennas, with a generator and a little building there that they do all kinds of dark, secretive stuff in. But they turn on these antennas, this array of antennas, and they beam up waves of radio waves. Okay. Let me say something else here too. I also am into shortwave radio. I have a general class license in shortwave radio, and you need to study quite a bit to be able to get that. And you have to know about radio waves and propagation, that type of thing. Sunspots, all kinds of things come into play with shortwave. So I know about electronics, and I know what they can do. What they can do is they get all this array of antennas, thousands of antennas, turn them on with a high voltage, high wattage, beam them up into the sky. They can actually push against the ionosphere. This is the ionosphere, and it's kind of like an envelope around the Earth. And it's got ions in it. That's why it's called the ionosphere. And it pushes up these ions, or pushes up this womb to Mother Earth. Okay, it's almost like a womb to Mother Earth. They push it way up out of proportion, and then they turn the beam off, and boom, the ionosphere smacks back down, and it can cause earthquakes, and they can actually generate earthquakes with this, and they can shoot out particle beams to interact with the chemtrails that they're spraying in the sky, and they can create instant storms. Basically, they can turn particles that are in the air into snowstorms. That's why you see the extreme weather. Okay, you'll have snow one day in Texas, and then the very next day you'll have 100 degrees, and people are scratching their head going, how the fuck did this happen? Well, the way it happened is that they're practicing this geoengineering. They're shooting out radio beams. Some people even say that the Storm Sandy on the East Coast was generated this way. A lot of storms are generated this way. They experiment on the population. That's basically what this amounts to, is an experimentation on the population of the United States. Is this stuff real? Well, research it yourself. Go to the link that I'm going to provide below. I believe it's geoengineering something.org. I'll get the link to it and put it below. But Thunder researches this type of thing and knows about this type of thing. And a lot of people don't know about this. Like, a lot of people are starting to wake up and realize, hey, wait a minute, these chemtrails haven't been around forever. If you look at old movies, old westerns with John Wayne or whoever, and you look at the skies, do you see any of this shit? Well, fuck no, you don't see any of it, because it didn't exist then. But I'm telling you how insidious this is that they're starting to get some of these old movies and put chemtrails in them, just so people don't question, well, how come we're seeing this now and we're not seeing it in the older movies? So yeah, it's a pretty insidious thing, okay? And it's something that people should take note of. And so the drill is, or the thought is by some people, that this is so intense, this has been going on so long, and it's so intense, that the planet may have on the outside 10 years, okay, before it goes. The oceans go dead, and the biosphere that, is affected so much that Earth is no longer a livable habitat, okay? Now, you got all these people out there protesting all kinds of things like pipelines and this and that. Forget it, okay? This is way beyond pipelines, okay? If you're going to protest about something, if you're going to go out and put your butt on the line and have some kind of harm come to you, do it for this, because this affects, and I'm talking to you indigenous people too, because I'm indigenous, this affects the whole planet, the whole, it will change the biosphere, the ecosphere, whatever you want to call it. It will change everything. It will kill off all the animals. It's already killed off, I forget what the number is, but it's probably more than half of certain species, or the total species. It's mind-boggling, people. And you read this stuff all the time. Like, if you subscribe to like ENE News, which is about energy, well, then it's constantly talking about how the porpoises are going on stampeding across the ocean, and how, a bunch of seals or a bunch of whales washed up dead, and they don't know why. And, well, I know why, because the oceans are going dead. Now, the other thing that's happening because of their fucking around and with this weather is that there is such a change, okay? Now, I know this flies in the face of some theories, and I've even talked about some of those theories, but there's supposedly such a change that Antarctica, the poles are going to be melted completely here real soon. So, yeah, this stuff's really happening, people. And they've even got evidence of all kinds of plants and stuff dying, and communities starting to wake up and go, what's happening here? And just the fact that we're living in these times. If you want to protest about, I'm not saying stand around and lose sleep and worry your ass off about all this stuff. because what, our lifespan isn't that long anyway. But if you really want to know about what's going on and you really want to protest some things that are going on concerning environmental issues, forget all this other stuff about the desert tortoise and the pipelines and the blah 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 blah. That ain't even going to matter in about a decade if this shit keeps up. You want to look at the big picture and concentrate on the big picture, which is basically that there's people out there that are experimenting on us like guinea pigs and experimenting on Mother Earth. Now, if you want life or mankind to be sustained for your children or whatever, your grandchildren, you'll look into this and you'll make people aware of it. You'll make people aware of it. You won't just sit on your ass about this. And you can do it like I'm doing it with this video here. I'm fulfilling my purpose as a wisdom keeper and a shaman to pass on certain informations. Do I want people to get freaked out? Do I want people to lose it? Think there's no hope or anything like that? No, not really. But you know, you should come from a higher level of consciousness of like no fear, but at least making people aware of what the fuck's happening around them, because most people are clueless. Just now, even, people are like, yeah, they're starting to realize the word chemtrails starting to come into the consciousness, but it's still not, most of the people on the planet don't have a freaking clue about this stuff. They just look up at the sky. I mean, you know what? It's hard for them to get their noses out of their fucking iPods for 5 minutes. I'll see people come into a coffee shop and stick their face in the iPod for an hour straight without looking up. So you expect them to look up in the friggin' sky and see chemtrails and go, oh, what's that? Look who we're dealing with here. So anyway, that's what I wanted to touch on today, is the chemtrail situation. Connect to the link or hit the link below in the show notes, or I might even put it in the comments section. And go check it out. Now, my next video, what's my next video going to be on? Yeah, well, it'd be something interesting, that's for sure. But for now, I think my next video is going to be a little bit more spiritual oriented, and it's going to be on dimensional shifts, traveling in different dimensions. Might have to do with time travel, and it's not as far out as it sounds. It's more real than you can imagine. Don't confuse this video with the next one now. This is 100% provable, whereas some of the stuff I talk about, only a shamanistic person or a person that is highly enlightened would understand some of this stuff. But I am going to be touching on in my next video probably about dimensions and time travel, and how you can do this with your own consciousness and your own energy and that type of thing. So anyway, I'm going to just leave it there today. This is Thunder. That's enough. I'm out of here. Adios, over and out.